What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes always deliver the big names in the sport of mixed martial arts. Today we get to talk to a Vegas guy just like us, Jordan Leavitt, 11-2 overall, 4-2 in the UFC. He's got a fight coming up, folks, and it's Chase Hooper who he'll be tangling with on November 18th at the UFC Fight Night coming up here in Las Vegas. What's going on, Jordan?
Nothing much, just training. The last hard week of training. It's Monday. I'm still feeling pretty good energy-wise, and the next week is going to be horrible. So spirits are very high for right now.
Goes was asking you about if you were at the library. He said, no, this is my office. Check out the big brain on Jordan. You read all those, or is that someone else that shares?
Oh, no, I've read a lot of them over the years. My family is very big on having books and everything. And this one is like my passion project. It's all used books and stuff. Even the bookcase is like used. So it's just, it's what I've been building across the years.
What kind of books do you read? Are you a fiction guy, nonfiction, biographies?
I usually read like philosophy, political science books, or fiction. Primarily fiction this year, though. I'm trying to have more fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right, that's impressive, man. I take my hat off. Jordan, so dude, what's with you in the Apex? I mean, you're doing well there. You're 5-1, I believe. But I'd love to see you back out on the road. You know, you went to London, England. Things didn't go your way, but I want to see you on a numbered event.
Me too. Like I've wanted to fight from my wife hasn't seen me fight since 2 fights before I got into the UFC. So now majority of my career she hasn't been able to see in person. So I would love to be able to go and fight in front of a crowd, preferably not halfway across the world or Singapore or Abu Dhabi, so my family could come. But yeah, hopefully I'll be getting on one of those T-Mobile cards, one of those Madison Square Garden cards next year. That'd be ideal. Well, yeah, I like the Apex. It's cozy. I drive. I wake up in my own bed. I go fight, and I drive home. It's a little weird, but it's nice.
How's your wife not seeing you fight if you're a Vegas guy and the Apex is at the Vegas?
Well, the Apex, we don't get complimentary tickets to the Apex, and they're pretty expensive tickets.
Really?
And I would just feel so stupid if I thought the Apex lost, and then we were like almost $2,000 in the hole just for her ticket. So just been unlucky with that so far.
She can't sneak in, just kind of holding onto your arm as the rest of the team walks in. Would someone really bat an eye at that?
They used to, like, it's not the Apex. You could used to be able to have your spouse like in the locker room and stuff, but the Apex are a little bit more tight on those things.
Really?
If I got a little bit easy, if they would give me easier fights, I put my wife in the corner, but I need all the advice I could get when I go out there. So, maybe after Chase will be a less weird matchup for me. Maybe she'll be in the corner if I fight at the Apex again, but hopefully we just get the crowd.
And another thing I was going to ask you was, as a Vegas guy, have you been able to cash in on maybe just being a UFC favorite? So, Dana kind of plays that card a little bit where he likes his Boston people, but he loves his Vegas people. You, again, I know you wrestled in high school here in Vegas. You're a Vegas guy. So you're available. Maybe if they need someone to go help speak to kids or whatever. Have you noticed? Do you have any sort of an in with the organization at all?
I'm not sure if I have been in like since I've been in the UFC, but I know I only really got the Call for Contender series because I lived 0.7 miles away from the Apex, and they need a last minute replacement. So I definitely owe my UFC tenure to me living in Vegas, being right around the corner. So I haven't gotten any like easily noticeable benefits from being in Vegas yet, but he generally does like having Vegas fighters because the Apex cards, fight nights in general, all cards in general, really, you often lose fights in the scramble. So I'm always ready. If I see a matchup that's good on the card, I make sure to start water loading just in case. So
that's very interesting. All right. Chase Hooper could possibly be one of those names that can maybe put you over, to borrow a pro wrestling term. Are you seeing it the same, not just from an athletic standpoint, but the fact that he's got a bit of a name? I've seen him in a few commercials.
Yeah, it's really weird because I really like Chase, and we've met at the PI. We've talked in the sauna. I've been following his career for a number of years, and we were in different weight classes. And then I remember talking to him maybe 6 months ago, and he's like, "I'm moving to 55," and I was like, "That's really good, like move for you. That'd be great for your frame. I hope that works out well." And then fast forward 6 months, we're scheduled to fight. Yeah, he's got a lot of like social media following. He's very popular. He's very likable. He's very young, very talented. We have similar skill sets. Yeah, and I like him. It's weird. Like one of the main struggles for this camp is to avoid watching any interviews. I don't want to have even more sympathy and empathy for him than I do now because I want him to succeed. I just don't want him to succeed on November 18th. So yeah, it's a little weird position to be in, honestly.
Jordan, how do you anticipate that moment when you guys are together? Like, there's times where we've seen fighters almost laugh and giggle amongst themselves while they're fighting because they're familiar with each other. Have you thought about what those emotions will be like that night?
This is my first time fighting somebody that I like and I've been a fan of. I mean, I was a fan of Matt Wyman, but also it was my UFC debut, and I was a little scared. But this fight, I'm not sure what to anticipate because I feel like we might both be going in there like, okay, no empathy, go for the kill. So maybe I think it'll be a little bit more uncharacteristically violent as we overcompensate for those nice feelings. But I can't tell you how this fight's going to go. I would love to be the first person to submit Chase Hooper. I'm not sure many people will get that opportunity in his career, but I definitely feel like inclined to believe it's going to be a very awkward kickboxing fight, and I'm down for that. We both are coming off our best striking performances, and we both have never really fought another grappling specialist, so it's going to be a weird one.
Jordan, can you maybe share with us a high and a low from this training camp?
Oh, a high and a low. The high would basically be again, this fight came together in like 3 hours. I was talking to my manager, and he was like, "This fighter said no to Chase Hooper," and I was like thinking about it. I'm like, if he was down for it, I'd fight Chase, but only if he says yes first. And then they messaged Sean Shelby, and Sean Shelby was like, "I love it," and then Chase like, "I love it." And then it was done like in a handful of hours. So that was the high point because it just came together in a very funny, like everything aligned type of way. And also, I think the low point, it'd just be like getting back into shape. I'm coming off an injury, and it's like it hasn't affected the camp. It was a very long camp, but I was a little more out of shape than I have been before entering into camp. And then I guess another low point would be my wife is pregnant and my baby's due like 6 days after the fight. So that kind of has been a specter hanging over this camp. Like, well, am I going to have a very stressful fight week, or am I going to have a very stressful fight night? So yeah, mostly high points though. It's in a very good camp. I've been very happy with it. I'm happy to be back, not injured anymore, back to full-time training. And I think this is a very intriguing challenge.
So, Jordan, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a silly question next because that's the world we live in. I can't stop looking at your background, and all I can think of is when this interview's over, you're going to pull a book, it's going to open a door, and it's going to take you somewhere. So we know a lot about you as the fighter, but we don't know a lot about you as your personal life and all that. If there was a place that when you pull that book and it opens a door, where would that door lead? What's your happy place?
Ooh, if I could just like a fictional, that's a good one. Let me get it real quick. Oh dang, that's a really good question. I would choose, and I dropped the book. I would choose any of the books from Terry Pratchett's Discworld. Discworld's like a very absurdist fantasy world, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I don't take myself too seriously. And the universe of this like book series is just so absurd. Like the world takes place on a flat Earth on the back of a giant turtle, and it just that floats through space. But yeah, Terry Pratchett's Discworld because it's just a good time, and it doesn't take itself too seriously.
You mentioned striking a little while ago. That's how you finished your last fight. And it reminded me of an interview we did with Patchy Mix. He had a lot of submissions, decisions, but he had that beautiful KO knee that he landed on Raytheon Stotts. And now, of course, we all have to look at it as this guy's his playbook is bigger than we thought. There's some strikes there, he just hadn't used them yet, and here we go. Same thing with you. In a way, though, has it been to your advantage to hide the fact that you do have a striking game and just let people think that you're a grappler, whether it's against the cage, it's against the ground? How has it been, I guess, kind of holding on to that? But now, of course, a little bit of the secret's out.
Yeah, it's been very weird because I've been very fortunate. Like, I'm 6 fights into my UFC career. This will be fight number 7. And people aren't very aware, even of like my grappling skill set, because I've been doing a very good job at slowing down the pace of the fights. And I really, last camp, I came to the realization that I was handicapping myself, because I've always went into a fight thinking like, how am I going to submit this person? Because I remember when I first got into the sport, Damian Maia was a very big influence on me. And he said, my dream fight is I walk out there, I submit my opponent, and neither of us get hurt. So I feel like I was going into these fights trying not to hurt my opponent and trying not to get hurt myself. And it was like putting me at a disadvantage. So my last fight, I was like, I'm going to hurt him because I'm not good enough to beat these guys without hurting them. So now I go out there and I try to beat them wherever the fight is. But when I'm training, when I spar, that's what I do. I don't just panic wrestle, pull guard when I spar. I try to be a good opponent for my sparring partners. When I go into the fights now, I'm trying to beat them on the feet, beat them in the clinch, beat them on the ground. And they have to earn me getting a takedown. They have to earn a painless defeat. And that's kind of been like the mental turnaround I've had the past year so far.
Nice pull with Damian Maia. Love that guy. He was a stud, title contender at both 170 and 185. That's a great influencer that you picked out. Did you ever meet him, by the way?
I haven't met him. My only fight hero I've met is Jose Aldo, and I fanboyed pretty hard. I've never really been starstruck. But Jose Aldo, Dan Henderson, the only fighters where I was like, I'm not going to talk to them. Like, they're a big deal. I can't talk to them. Then I met Jose Aldo, and he was like, you got good grappling. I was like, Jose Aldo knows who I am. It was super pumped me up super hard, especially coming right off an injury. So, yeah, haven't met Damian Maia, but that would be a dream. That'd be a dream come true.
How was it like meeting Dan Henderson?
Oh, Dan Henderson, he's one of my top picks for, like, in terms of like legacy, one of the most impressive careers in the sport. And meeting him and seeing how, like, he isn't that big, like his frame's not that much bigger than me, and seeing all he's accomplished in the sport, like arguably past his physical prime for a majority of his MMA career. And then meeting him, and I was just like silent. I was a mute. And then Tom Lawler was like, oh, Dan, Jordan's such a big fan. That's why he's so quiet. Just embarrassed me. He embarrassed me so bad. So, yeah, me and Dan Henderson was really exciting, but also a little embarrassing. So,
very cool. I've seen you train at Syndicate earlier on in your career. Then I've seen you at Extreme Couture. Do you have an open invite to both? Not too many people have been able to pull that off. Although they're friendly. I wouldn't say they're rivals per se, maybe on the amateur MMA circuit, but how do you divvy up your time between those two gyms if you're still at both and the PI?
For a time I was doing both, but now I primarily train out the PI and Extreme Couture. But a lot of my training partners and people I drill with are still from Syndicate, because there is that tension, not exactly a rivalry, because there's not really too many fighters in overlapping weight classes, but there's like a legacy of a rivalry there. So I kind of been mostly at Couture for the past, since like February, March, but I still train a lot with Syndicate people. It's a pretty weird spot. I've been in control of my camp for 3 fight camps now, and one of those fights I had to pull out of course. But yeah, it's hard to do that balancing act. But I kind of think I have the best of both worlds. It was very hard to make the transition to XC being my main gym, because I kind of had all my fights at Syndicate, all my friends were at Syndicate. It was kind of jumping into the unknown. But then I jumped ship a little bit, or I jumped to a different gym, and I still get to train with all my friends, and relationships are good. At least I think from my end. So yeah, it's been kind of cool how I've been able to be one of the first people to kind of build a bridge between those gyms.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, yeah, if you can pull it off, that's awesome. All right, last question here. I'm not poking fun or anything like that, but I'm in awe of what you can do with your eyebrows, and here's why. Because I have Bell's palsy, so I can't move my eyebrows. So that's why I'm like just fixated. I'm like, holy cow. Yeah, pretty. Yeah, that's all I wanted to see. Is it? Do that again.
A little
Look at
eyebrow wave.
that. That's incredible. I can barely move mine, man. I can barely move any muscles in my face, but I'm powering through. But yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted. That was just for me. It's been nice meeting you, and good luck. Like I say, 11-2, solid, man. Be proud of that. That's
Thank you. I'm pretty proud of it.
That's like an 85% or something like that win ratio, and 4-2 in the UFC. Solid start right there. I just think that with you being a UFC guy, got to get that next step. Maybe it takes place with a win over Chase Hooper, so you can get your name out there a little bit more.
I know. I'm pretty excited for the opportunity.
All right. Well, thanks for the time today. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, Jordan.
Thank you. Have a nice day, guys.